Apple first. Global multinational corporation based in Cupertino, California. I think that's sort of, somewhere down on that Silicon Valley alley. Designs, develops, and sells consumer electronics equipment. We all know the products: iPads, iPhones, iPods, etc., not to forget the MacBook range. Best known for its hardware products like the Mac line of computers, but remember the software side of the business. The iTunes, the stuff that all ties it together. Apple has a market cap of, wait for it, $424 billion. That's a lot bigger than anything we ever talk about here, and it used to be a lot higher. It used to be the most valuable company in the world. I'm not sure if it is anymore relative to ExxonMobil. Price to earnings ratio has come down to a pathetically low 12, 11.7. Dividend yield of 2.6. It didn't used to pay dividends. But we know, look, right up to $700, back now to $300, now it's at around $500 or $470 or something after yesterday's product announcements. But how are you reading this one? Profits-wise, where's it going?
Look, this is a phenomenal business. I don't think there's two ways about it. So we talk about that big market cap, 130 odd billion of that is cash, which is an impressive number. The truth is a phenomenal business. If you look at their margins, how that translates is their margins. They make more money off the products that they sell than anybody else. I read an interesting piece today to say, why does Apple sell their products so expensively? It's because they can. That's genuinely how good their products are. So a phenomenal business that the market's punishing for starting to behave like a mature business. The truth is it's almost a consequence of their success. They've become so big that it's almost impossible to grow as quickly as they have for the last couple of years.
Yeah, you're right, because a couple of years ago they were bringing these new products, they were opening up new markets, signing new deals with new carriers, and it just looked as though they could carry on widening margins as they went along. But now they sort of seem to have kind of reached a point where the iPhone 5 is going to be replaced by the iPhone 5C range and the iPhone 5S. There's concerns that the Cs won't be cheap enough for real market penetration in China and elsewhere, Africa perhaps, and that the Cs won't be that, the S's won't be that exciting that people are going to go want to upgrade. So, I mean, that is a concern, but my own view, being bullish on Apple, declare my interest, both an owner and a user and a recommender of the stock, is that they're going to sell more of these units than people think.
Look, I wouldn't disagree with you. I think the 5C in particular is actually, if I think about it, not intended to compete with a cheaper end. I think it's actually intended to compete with the iPhone 4 and 4S. So replace that sort of market, and they earn a little bit higher margin than they would on their older generation iPhones. I think that's the strategy here, as opposed to trying to target the traditional Samsung playing area.
Correct. What about other devices? I mean, there's these perennial rumors about a TV. I don't know what it's going to look like, some shard of glass or something. And then what about a watch? All these other kinds of things. People talk about them buying Tesla and then they'll turn it into the iCar and all that sort of. I mean, where do they go from here? Do you think Johnny Ive and Tim Cook have got those wider aspirations, or is that all just fanboys making that stuff up?
Look, I think one or two of those products will come through. Whether they're as successful as the iPhone remains to be seen. I view Apple right now as approaching a mature business where it's going to really how well they preserve the brand around the iPhones and iTunes and the existing businesses is going to determine the success going forward. I think it'll be a particularly special product to see them replicating the growth that we've seen historically.
But I mean, we know that smartphone penetration in countries like Nigeria and China is still relatively low. So I guess this is, as ever, is a proxy call on how consumers do and whether they see this as a priority.
Well, we know that Apple in particular struggles in China. I think they only have 6% of the Chinese smartphone market. And I don't see anything that they've introduced that's going to make them penetrate that more aggressively. The transaction or the deal with China Mobile, people are talking about that coming on board soon. Maybe that will help. But the Chinese market is proving particularly difficult. And if you're competing on the lower end, Lenovo's seemingly winning that space.
But to be fair, the reason they haven't been able to crack the China market is because the Chinese authorities don't want automatic access to iTunes so that people can buy stuff that they don't want them seeing. So it's easy for Android because they put these dumb phones on the market which do nothing, and then the only thing you can access is like Tencent and QQ and so on. I mean, Apple really, I think it's been a really tough negotiation for them with China Mobile, but my own feeling is once they crack that, it's going to be selling like hotcakes because Chinese are very brand conscious. they'd like to be able to look good with that champagne-colored 5S phone, no?
That's a good
Let's
argument.
See. Okay, so as far as Apple, at just below $500 a share, on a 12 PE, paying dividends. Are you hot on it?
Look, at $700 a share was iffy. At current levels, I'm particularly bullish.
Excellent. You're hot.